Hello, Primals. Today I want to talk about the link between narcissism and New Age belief systems, including astrology, psychics, and tarot cards, and all of that kind of stuff. But first, I want to appreciate and just give a shout out to everybody that subscribed and that have liked the videos over the past week or so. I really appreciate the support, and I'll do my best to continue bringing quality content that is truthful and helpful to society. With that being said, please also go ahead and like and subscribe again if you would. So, today what I want to talk about is why New Age is actually more, to me, seeming more like a pathology than it is a spiritual liberation route. I understand that a lot of New Agers do not accept the authority or the traditional values of religions. I can understand where you're coming from with that, New Agers. I can also understand that there are terms like you want to destroy the patriarchy or all that kind of stuff, and down with men and empower women, and that's all, you can think what you want. But the problem is, for me, is that now I studied a lot of New Age material for almost 2 years. And by the end of it, I really discovered that I was doing nothing but inviting negativity into my life. And that I was trying to it was like, imagine trying to give somebody ibuprofen for somebody that has a lung collapsed, right? Like they're not able to breathe, and you're like, oh, here's some ibuprofen. It's not going to help. Right? It's not going to help the lung. If the lung is collapsed and the lung is deflated, how are you going to give them ibuprofen and feel better? Well, it might take away the pain for a little bit, but they're still not going to be able to breathe. They're still not going to be able to function in their body, right? So what do? Well, you actually have to do what I would call a spiritual alignment and spiritual, I would say, a spiritual procedure to repair that lung, right? Now, this is just an example, but what I've found is that there actually is a lot of potentialities for truth in these New Age belief systems like astrology, psychics, and spiritual energy, and all of that sort. However, as Westerners, I think it's a mistake to do this. Now, if anybody wants to read more about just like chakras in general, or like Kundalini awakenings, that kind of stuff, from a psychological perspective, I highly recommend Carl Jung's book on Kundalini. And he goes through and analyzes each chakra, there are 7 chakras in like Eastern religions, including the root chakra, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then the crown. Now, I do think that I don't want to completely disregard these spiritual discernments from the East, but I do think that as Westerners, it is paramount for us to first discover our Western roots. Psychologically speaking, I think that would be more helpful in the long run. Reason being is because I realized that the more I got into my Eastern philosophies and studies before transitioning over to my Christianity my understanding of Christianity and my Western foundations, I actually caused myself more harm in the long run. But the more that I shifted my focus toward the fruits of Christianity, the better I seemed to get spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and physically as well, just because those all are natural alignments. Now, there is some more psychology behind the astrology and the chakras in general, which I think if we were to give a psychological analysis of what exactly they are, just a simple, very simple analysis, it would be that it is a cumulative fantasy being projected from the unconscious into consciousness. And that fantasy, though it does share some similar themes and values, it is still man-made. We have to understand that it is still man-made. But that does not mean that there's not utility in it, and that does not mean that it is not worth studying, and it is not worth taken seriously in regards to the spiritual realms. All I'm saying is that if you, as Westerners, if you study Eastern philosophies before you study Western philosophies, I do think that you're going to put poison in your own chalice, so to speak. I think you're going to just be hurting yourself in the long run, and that is just based off of my experiences as well. Now, there are some other realms and domains that I think we should look at in regards to the connection between a lot of modern astrology-like people and narcissism. I don't know why exactly, but there seems to be a connection between entitled, lacking of accountability, not being willing to take responsibility, and people that associate themselves with astrology. I don't exactly know why that is, because I do think that astrology, because it was founded by our great ancestors, and that there was a kind of science to it, I do not think that they were just bored. Like, I don't think they were just bored and trying to come up with for certain things, because the history of astrology goes back thousands and thousands of years, and it's very old. Like, it's very, very old, and it was one of the first ways that people actually conducted calendars in tribes, right? Like, especially like the Aztecs. There's a story, I don't remember who it was exactly, but in the Joe Rogan Experience, there's an episode where one of the guests talks about his trip to the Aztec realm, or the Aztec pyramids. And there was a pool of water at one point where they were able to look down at the plane reflection of the water and look up at the stars, and then map the stars based off of that pool of water in the middle of the temples. And the reason for that was because it hurt their necks to always look up. So these people were actually really smart, and they obviously cared enough about figuring out the ways and the movements of the stars and understanding the patterns of life to some degree, that they actually built monuments based around it. So there was obviously something deeply spiritual about it. So I do not want to discount the New Age belief systems altogether. However, I do think that we have a lot to learn from them, especially in today's modern age. I think that they are being used. I think New Age belief systems are being used as ways to distract people from fulfillment and distract people from themselves. And I have a verse here that from Galatians 5:19 through 21 that I'm going to read about. And I think that a lot of New Age belief systems are born out of the flesh, at least the desire for fleshly desires anyway. So it says, "Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and lasciviousness, adultery, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murderers, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell before, as I have also told you in time past, and they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God." Wow. Wow, what does that mean? That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff, right? So what I think these verses are saying is that the children of promise, the chosen ones, are going to get nowhere by practicing these belief systems, these New Age belief systems, also including like reincarnation and such, because you're not getting at yourself. You're not getting at yourself. You are just using this as a distraction and a way to not actually take accountability for who you are and what you're doing with your life. Again, I can say this because that's exactly what I was doing, like with tarot cards. Now, I do think that there are some kind of archetypal themes that we can look at from a Jungian psychology perspective. I'll do that in another video. But for today, I still want to focus on the link between narcissism and New Age belief systems. So the New Age belief systems actually fuel narcissism. They fuel this fleshly desire to disregard what is greater than the self. And because at the end of the day, if you are left provoking yourself to things and people that are not going to have your best interests at heart, then you're likely surrounding yourself with people that don't want to see you succeed. And why would you do that? Why would you want to surround yourself with people that don't want to see you succeed? It would be far better, in my opinion, to understand that though it is difficult to choose the path, because you know it's right. You know it's right. You just don't want to take the hard path. And I understand it. It's hard. But because all of these things like astrology, psychics, all these things can just tell you what your problem is, right? They can just tell you how to fix it, and you can just keep coming back to them, hoping that one day you might fix it. But guess what? That day is not going to come until you look inside yourself and experience something profound within you that's already there. So with that being said, I hope you all have a blessed day. I hope this message was useful in some way, and may peace be unto you. Till next time.